Welcome, Kim Star, Emotional Mastery. Thank you for joining me here today. Hope you're keeping well. I want to talk today about our parents. We've all got them in one form or another, or a primary caregiver. And I want to talk to them because they get a lot of press, don't they? In my video, my previous video, if you've not seen it, I recommend you checking out You Are Not You. I talk about how we are conditioned and programmed and trained to be who we are today. In this video, I want to talk about your parents also going through the same process, or those who filled the role of parents, because I appreciate some people may not have known them. And let's be honest, even if they're almost perfect, there's a part of us that sort of thinks, if only they'd done this and they didn't treat me properly then. There will be some small grievances that you have with them, to the much bigger grievances that people can hold. In this video, I want to talk and explore a little bit more about that, how, they were doing the best they can. This is not about letting them off the hook for their behaviours or the way they treated you. It's more about helping you understand that they were people in their own right, doing the best they can. Even if they knew it was wrong, they couldn't help themselves all the time. So, where am I going with this? I want to remind you, as I said in the previous video, that we are all a product of our past. We have experienced things that our primitive brain has taken and learnt and decided this is the way we need to keep ourselves safe, or that's okay, you can continue to do more of that. And we learn this from our interactions with parents, family, friends, school, work, society. But we also learn it from experiences such as doing things ourselves. Either we learnt to tie our shoelaces really easily, or we didn't. We learnt to ride a bike easily, or we didn't. All these are experiences, and your brain is learning. Okay, that's good. Oh, no, that's not good. Let's shy away from that. Because that's the way the brain is primed to keep you safe, to keep you alive. It's not worried about whether you fit in at this stage. That comes later. So if you can take that and accept that as true, that is what happens, and I think you'll find when you do the research, I am backed up by numerous branches of science and psychology and various other forms of research. The more important thing is, if you accept that as true, was that the same for your parents? Oh yes, it was. They also learnt who they were from their parents. Now, I don't know how old your parents are. Mine are long gone, unfortunately. However, my mum was born pre-Second World War. She was a teenager in the Second World War. And she was responsible, after the death of her father, pre-war, in helping her mum look after all the other siblings. And there were a few of them. I don't know whether she was one of 5 or one of 6. I never really knew that side of the family as well as I wish I had. But she was responsible for them. As a teenager, she went to work when she was about 13 or 14 to earn money to supplement the income, because they had lost the income of her father. So money was tight. And between her and her mother, they brought up the younger siblings. My father also was I think he was born just before the Second World War. But you can imagine the training that he got from his parents, who would have been even earlier. And suddenly you're starting to get a picture of how parents are formulated from the environment that they grew up in. Both my parents experienced the Second World War and all the concerns that would have been around that. My father lived in Essex, so was very close to London, where a lot of the bombing happened. I can only imagine the fear that must have gone through his mum's mind at that time. I can only imagine that my mum, living down as she was in Emsworth in Hampshire, how she would have been sort of under pressure to support her mum in whatever way she could, because it was a matter of survival. And they lived close enough to Portsmouth, and I don't know that there was bombing per se there, but there was a lot of war activity that went on around that part of the coast because it's a naval dockyard. Imagine the fear that they would have been brought up with. My father, in particular, the anger that he would have experienced. And your parents may not be any different. Even if your parents were, bringing you up in the 70s or 80s, their parents would have been war children of some sort. And they were learning something. They were learning something about life. They were learning something about who they were. And their parents were pretty much in a whole different history of bringing people up. And I want you to see them as people, not as your parents. And I think it's important to try and distinguish between the two. What were their hopes and dreams as children? What did they want to do with their lives as they started to grow from young teenager to young adult? Where did they want to be? What was their ambition? And it doesn't mean to say it's the same ambition as we would have today, but just understand them. They probably wanted more for themselves, particularly as you get out of the post-war era into the 50s and 60s, when everything was about celebration and enjoying and growth and look at all these new things that we can do. So I want you to imagine, in whatever way you can do this, you can step back from your own emotional content and start to view your parents more objectively, to see them as people. Because I think once you start to do that, this is not about forgiveness, remember, this is about making a shift for yourself, to begin to understand for yourself that actually they were doing the best they could. They didn't have all this openness around mental health and emotional health. They didn't have the tools that we've had in just the last 20 years in a regular way. Just be more compassionate as you remember the period that they were brought up in and who they were brought up by. Are you ready to take back control of your own life? Are you ready to make a difference for yourself, to yourself? Then I may have just the thing for you. My Be More You program takes you on a journey to clear whatever you need to clear, to highlight whatever it is you need to highlight, to heal it, to clear it, to resolve it, to change it in some way. Because it's interesting, even if you change something just a little bit, your trajectory changes. How awesome is that? Do check out my website, let me say that again, kimsearle.co.uk /Be More You. Have a check out. I think you might be pleasantly surprised at how easy this process can be. Thank you for listening. Kim Searle, Emotional Mastery. I will talk to you again very soon. Thank you.